For generations, Jewish families passed down money habits that quietly built wealth through discipline, trade, education, and long-term thinking. These weren't secret tricks or mysterious shortcuts. They were cultural habits practiced in immigrant neighborhoods, family businesses, and tight-knit communities across America and Europe. Today, we are counting down 20 of these practices, from simple household budgeting to the one principle that multiplied wealth across entire generations. Starting at number 20, with a kitchen table, a stack of envelopes, and every dollar accounted for before it was spent. In the 20th place, the envelope cash system set the rhythm of daily life in countless Jewish households. Each week, wages arrived in coins and small bills, carefully divided into labeled envelopes, one for rent, another for food, a third for synagogue dues, and always a portion for tzedakah. This ritual, often led by the matriarch at the kitchen table, made every dollar visible and every obligation tangible. The practice was more than arithmetic. It was a safeguard against uncertainty. By separating money for essentials before a single coin could be spent on extras, families protected themselves from the temptation of impulse and the risk of running short before the month's end. During the Great Depression, this habit proved its worth, helping families avoid overdrafts and maintain dignity even as wages fluctuated. The envelope system offered not just financial order, but a sense of control and purpose, foundational discipline that anchored generations through upheaval and change. In the 19th place, a hidden emergency stash served as the household's silent guardian. Tucked inside a hollowed bread tin or beneath a loose floorboard, this reserve was neither spoken of openly nor spent lightly. Oral histories from the Living Smarter Jewish Project recall mothers quietly showing their daughters the secret spot, a rite of passage as real as lighting Shabbat candles. Families typically set aside about 5% of their annual earnings, kept out of sight and untouched except in true crisis, when a pogrom forced overnight flight or a wage earner fell ill. This was not just thrift, but insurance against the world's unpredictability. The knowledge of a concealed buffer, always present, rarely needed, offered a sense of calm that budgeting alone could not. In an era before bank accounts or digital alerts, the hidden stash was a lesson in preparation and quiet resilience, a habit that could mean survival when everything else was lost. In the 18th place, the Gemach, or interest-free community lending fund, became a pillar of financial survival in Jewish neighborhoods facing exclusion from mainstream banks. Rooted in the biblical commandment to lend without interest, these mutual aid societies transformed ancient law into practical support. In 1909, the Seattle Hebrew Ladies Free Loan Society opened its doors, pooling small monthly contributions to offer no-interest loans for rent, inventory, or medical bills. During the 1920s, records show over $1 million disbursed, with repayment rates soaring above 98% even through the depths of the Great Depression. Trust replaced collateral, and public reputation held more weight than a signed contract. The Gemach empowered families to start businesses and weather emergencies without falling into debt traps. Its legacy endures in today's peer-to-peer lending circles, but the original Gemach stands out for turning collective trust into a resilient engine of community wealth and dignity. In the 17th place, portable wealth sewn into clothing became a lifeline for Jewish migrants facing sudden exile. When borders closed or violence erupted, there was no time to liquidate property or visit a bank. Instead, families stitched small bundles of cash, often $10 to $30, into coat linings or hems, transforming garments into silent vaults. Joseph Seligman, who would later help finance the Union during the Civil War, arrived in America with his entire fortune hidden in a $50 coat, ready to become a peddler the morning he landed. This practice was not born of paranoia, but of necessity, and the ability to carry capital on one's back meant the difference between starting over and arriving destitute. In an era when trust in institutions could vanish overnight, liquidity was measured in what could be carried, not what was left behind. The habit of portable wealth, born from hardship, remains a lesson in resilience and readiness for uncertain times. In the 16th place, Pooled wholesale purchasing cooperatives offered small Jewish merchants a way to punch above their weight in a world dominated by large department stores. On the Lower East Side, between 1910 and 1930, so-called coffhouse clubs gathered shopkeepers and families to pool their orders for flour, fabric, or hardware, unlocking bulk discount once reserved for the giants of retail. By joining forces, members routinely shave 10 to 15% off their supply costs, a margin that could mean the difference between survival and shuttered doors. Historical records from the Jewish Virtual Library in EBSCO show that even modest contributors saved the equivalent of $30 per month, a sum that often went straight back into inventory or rent. These cooperatives turned community trust into practical leverage, proving that disciplined collaboration could stretch every dollar further. The lesson endures. Strategic group buying transforms limited means into collective strength, amplifying opportunity for those willing to organize and share the load. In the 15th place, the family-owned business became both a livelihood and a home for Jewish immigrants building new lives in American cities. From 1900 to 1930, census records reveal that nearly 28% of Jewish families operated their own shops, often living in the rooms above or behind the storefront. This arrangement blurred the line between work and family life, allowing parents, children, and sometimes even grandparents to contribute labor and share in the rewards. By relying on kin instead of hired staff, families routinely reduced payroll expenses by as much as 30%, a margin that could mean survival during lean years or provide the seed for future expansion. These businesses, whether bakeries, tailor shops, or hardware stores, averaged a lifespan of 3 generations, far outlasting most solo ventures. The model offered more than just savings. It became a training ground for the next generation, passing down skills and responsibility long before formal schooling began. In a world of uncertainty, the family shop was a fortress rooted in trust, resilience, and a shared sense of purpose. In the 14th place, early business education for children unfolded not in classrooms, but across the counters and ledgers of family shops. By the time a child reached 6 or 7, apprenticeship began with real tasks: recording sales, counting coins, and tracking inventory. The Saturday ledger became a weekly ritual, with children earning 75 cents a day for accurately logging transactions, a sum that carried both pride and responsibility. This early immersion wasn't just about numbers. It built confidence and a sense of ownership from a young age. Oral histories and YIVO's preserved ledgers reveal that this hands-on training produced remarkable results. Second-generation Jewish Americans grew up to be 40% more likely to become entrepreneurs than their peers. The practice seeded self-sufficiency and literacy early, ensuring that financial skills were woven into daily life, not left to chance or outside institutions. In the 13th place, skill-based self-sufficiency quietly protected Jewish households from the unpredictability of outside markets. Rather than outsourcing every need, families relied on in-house expertise, tailoring, shoe repair, and kosher cooking to keep expenses under control. YIVO craft surveys and peddler accounts from the 1920s reveal that a household could avoid up to 20% of typical living costs by repairing worn shoes or sewing garments at home instead of buying new. Weekly savings of $2 to $3, not an insignificant sum, often spelled the difference between scraping by and setting aside a small reserve. These practical skills also insulated families from wartime shortages and price spikes, offering a buffer when goods became scarce or unaffordable. Beyond thrift, this hands-on approach became the foundation for future side businesses, laying the groundwork for turning personal know-how into steady income when the need or opportunity arose. In the 12th place, side business diversification became the quiet engine behind many Jewish immigrant households. Peddlers and small shopkeepers rarely relied on a single trade. Instead, they turned every skill or scrap into an opportunity. A worn saucepan bought for pennies could be polished and resold for a profit margin of 25 cents, small change, yet multiplied across dozens of items each week. During the 1930s, historical records show that as much as 30% of household earnings could come from these repair and resale ventures, sometimes matching the main wage from factory or shop work. This enterprising spirit was more than a response to hardship. It was a safeguard against the seasonal slumps that plagued urban labor. By flipping goods, mending shoes, or trading scrap metal, families built a cushion that softened the blows of layoffs and slow months. The lesson endures. Transforming overlooked skills and everyday objects into cash flow isn't just thrift. It's a pathway to resilience in uncertain times. In the 11th place, reputation-based commerce shaped the rhythm of daily transactions in Jewish immigrant neighborhoods. On the Lower East Side, merchants operated within a tightly woven network where every handshake and price was guided by trust and a sharp eye for negotiation. A 5-day credit was standard among market stalls, but there was an unspoken rule. If one person underpaid or defaulted, the cost rippled through the entire block. Oral histories from the period recall shopkeepers warning, "If you shortchange me, you shortchange us all." This system reduced transaction costs by as much as 12% as informal credit replaced expensive outside loans, and the threat of social sanction kept everyone honest. The practice embedded commerce in the social fabric, laying the groundwork for shared housing economies and multi-generational support. In this world, a good name was worth more than collateral, and every bargain struck reinforced the invisible bonds that held the community and its fortunes together. In the 10th place, multi-generational living transformed the economics of everyday survival for Jewish immigrant families. Census records from 1910 reveal that the average Jewish household housed 5.8 people, far above the national average of 4.2. 3 generations often shared a single apartment, pooling not just rent, but food, utilities, and even child care. This arrangement slashed housing costs by up to 40%, freeing a meaningful surplus from every paycheck. Grandparents watched children while parents worked longer hours, turning shared space into a quiet engine for upward mobility. The savings didn't vanish into daily comforts. They became the seed for emergency funds, business ventures, or a child's education. In crowded tenements and row houses, the habit of living together wasn't just a response to poverty, it was a deliberate strategy. By dividing expenses and multiplying support, families amplified their disposable income, laying the groundwork for reinvestment and future security. In the 9th place, modest living paired with systematic reinvestment marked a quiet revolution in household finance. Families deliberately spent less than they earned, funneling the leftover, often 15% or more, into savings or small ventures rather than fleeting comforts. Gemach bylaws from early 20th century lending societies even required members to set aside a fixed percentage of income before personal spending began, turning self-restraint into a formal rule. Economic studies of immigrant neighborhoods reveal that households practicing this discipline saw their net assets grow 2 to 3 times faster than those who consumed every dollar. The power lay in compounding. Each modest surplus, faithfully reinvested, became the seed for a business, a property down payment, or a child's education. This habit bridged the gap between mere survival and the ability to seize new opportunities, laying the groundwork for strategic asset purchases and long-term security. In the 8th place, strategic property acquisition in emerging neighborhoods offered Jewish families a powerful route to intergenerational wealth. In the years between 1910 and 1925, tax records from Williamsburg, Brooklyn reveal a pattern. Families purchased modest homes in districts overlooked by wealthier buyers, often at prices well below the city average. These properties, chosen for their proximity to new transit lines or growing immigrant communities, saw annual appreciation rates between 5 and 7%, a steady climb documented in land registries and period real estate ledgers. But the value was more than speculative. Owners frequently rented out spare rooms to other newcomers, transforming each property into both a home and a source of immediate cash flow. This approach shifted family savings from fragile cash reserves into tangible assets, building equity that could be passed down or leveraged for future ventures. The lesson endures. Careful investment in undervalued real estate, especially in neighborhoods on the cusp of growth, remains a cornerstone of long-term financial security. In the seventh place, income-producing property became a cornerstone of financial stability in Jewish immigrant communities. By the 1930s, census records indicate that nearly 30% of Jewish-owned properties were rented out, often as row houses leased to fellow immigrants. This approach turned shelter into a steady cash generator, with gross yields averaging 7%, a figure that regularly covered the mortgage and left a surplus of about $150 per month, even after repairs and taxes. Rather than relying on the hope of rising property values, owners focused on the reliability of monthly rent, which provided a cushion against layoffs or economic downturns. Family studies from the period show that this surplus was rarely squandered. It was typically set aside for future investment or education, reinforcing a cycle of reinvestment and upward mobility. The lesson endures. Transforming a basic asset into a consistent income stream offers a quiet but powerful defense against uncertainty, proving that ownership paired with patience can create lasting security. In the sixth place, dividend-paying equity investments offer Jewish families a way to build wealth quietly, beyond the reach of landlords and the ups and downs of the shop floor. Joseph Seligman, who once arrived in America with little more than a few dollars sewn into his coat, became known for his prudent stake in the railroad boom, collecting reliable 5% dividends year after year. Rather than gambling on quick gains, families directed surplus savings into blue-chip stocks that paid steady cash, letting the market's growth work in the background. Over a 30-year span, a $5,000 stake compounded at 7% annually could grow to $38,000 even without dramatic speculation. This approach created a stream of passive income that didn't depend on tenants or tenants' fortunes, and it taught the next generation the value of patience and reinvestment. By layering market exposure onto property and business income, families diversified their security and quietly multiplied their future opportunities. In the fifth place, automatic dividend reinvestment transformed a steady trickle of income into a quietly compounding engine of growth. In the ledgers of the 1930s, Jewish families treated a dividend check from the railroads or utilities not as a windfall to be spent, but as a seed to be replanted. Each payment, no matter how modest, was used to purchase more shares, sometimes just a fraction at a time, building ownership with every cycle. This habit, now formalized as the Dividend Reinvestment Plan or DRIP, harnesses the power of compounding without requiring constant attention. Over a 20-year span, studies show that portfolios using automatic reinvestment end up about 30% larger than those that simply cash out dividends. The difference is not in luck or timing, but in the discipline of letting each dollar earned quietly multiply itself. For families who prize stability over spectacle, this method became a silent multiplier, turning patience and routine into lasting wealth and reinforcing the lesson that small, repeated actions can yield exponential rewards. In the fourth place, diversified income streams emerged as a quiet shield against the storms of economic upheaval. In the 1930s, Jewish household budgets often revealed a three-way split: 45% from wages, 30% from side businesses, and 25% from passive sources like rent or dividends. This intentional blend was more than a hedge, it was a survival strategy. During the 1933 bank closures, census studies found that families with multiple income buckets saw an 85% survival rate, while those relying on a single job managed only 55%. The logic was simple: when one stream ran dry, another could keep the household afloat. Whether it meant renting out a back room, collecting small dividends, or running a weekend repair trade, the aim was to reduce the shocks that toppled less prepared families. Today, the lesson remains. A portfolio built on many streams, not just one, is the surest defense against uncertainty. In third place, digital portable wealth has reimagined the old habit of carrying cash for sudden flight or fresh starts. Today, mobile wallets and crypto-style cold storage offer instant, secure access to funds, echoing the sown bills of a century ago. According to a 2024 survey, 68% of adults with immigrant backgrounds now use mobile wallets as their primary banking tool, favoring apps with biometric locks and offline backup keys for added security. Cold wallets, disconnected from the internet, provide a digital vault that can be moved across borders or restored from a simple recovery phrase, making wealth as portable as a slip of paper in a coat lining. This approach ensures that diversified income, whether from gig work, rental payments, or dividends, remains accessible even if banks freeze or systems fail. For communities shaped by uncertainty, the lesson endures. True liquidity is measured by what you can carry and access instantly, not just what sits in an account. In the second place, community-based emergency funds have found new life as digital rainy day accounts, echoing the old world ethic of collective security. Where once a GEMOC pooled small contributions from neighbors to provide interest-free relief, today's fintech platforms automate the process, rounding up spare change and channeling it into a shared buffer for times of need. Recent data from 2023 shows that 22% of users built a 3-month living expense cushion within a year simply by committing a steady 5% of income to these communal pools. The principle remains unchanged. By spreading risk across a trusted circle, families lower their individual vulnerability and replace anxiety with quiet confidence. Studies of historical GEMOCHIM revealed an 80% reduction in default rates, a testament to the power of mutual responsibility. As digital tools carry this tradition forward, the habit of building a collective safety net stands as both shield and bridge, protecting today's households while preparing the ground for wisdom to cross into the next generation. And finally, in first place, deliberate financial knowledge transfer stands as the ultimate multiplier. Across generations, families who made a ritual of teaching every lesson how to budget, invest, negotiate, and adapt preserve not just fortunes, but the mindset that outlasts any single tactic. Interviews from Living Smarter Jewish recall evenings where elders opened ledgers, explained the meaning behind each envelope, and modeled restraint and generosity side by side. Recent studies echo what these families long knew. When practical money skills are passed down intentionally, net worth growth can triple or even quintuple across 3 generations. The true inheritance is not a sum, but a system, a living curriculum that arms the next generation for whatever storms may come. The invitation remains: gather your family, share your stories, and make space for a financial heritage night. The most enduring wealth is wisdom, handed down with care. Across all 20 practices, one lesson endures. True wealth is built quietly, not through luck or secrecy, but by weaving patience, discipline, and shared knowledge into daily life. These habits, tested by hardship and handed down like heirlooms, prove that prosperity grows from stewardship, not spectacle. In uncertain times, the old world wisdom of careful ownership and community trust remains a timeless blueprint for lasting security. Which lesson resonates most with you? Let us know below.